Look, I've got married when I was 24.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I'm this year 25 years married. So half of my life I've been married. And what I
Beautiful.
can say, I would do it today again. I am a firm believer of a strong commitment. If you're able to build a strong bond
Mhm.
based on truth, relationships, and respect, and
Mhm.
admire the person. Of course, if you love the person, it's really important. But I think it's a strong bond that you build over time. It's nothing that comes from a day or a week together. You have to grow it together, and
Mhm.
I don't know, build something from the start. And
Mhm.
well, in my 20s, I had relationships before, but
Mhm.
like this one in my life, I've never had. You build a commitment with someone, and with yourself as well. If you're going into a relationship, I think that's different from going. Let's go with the metaphor of traveling together with someone or traveling by yourself. It's a completely different experience. If you decide to travel with someone in your life, it could be your family, it could be someone else, it could be anyone, but it's not only by yourself. You have to commit and you have to compromise with things that are not exactly all you want. It's not only about you. So
Mhm.
to build a strong commitment, I think you have to be able to compromise in a way that you're not doing your own project. It's not only about you. It's not a selfish project. You're building someone in common together. And that's not something you know beforehand. You just have to be open to build that commitment and to build kind of a common project in life.
Mhm.
If you don't feel like you're able, it's a combination of, it's a fine balance between being an individual, being yourself, holding your identity, but at the same time building something together when you have to respect the other person's identity as well. And you build something, a third entity that is not you, is not the person, is the both of you. It's a third
Mhm.
thing that you build. So you're committing to that third thing. You're not committing only to yourself, only to the other person. You're committing to a common project. It's the same thing like building a company. You're not going to do all you want. You have to negotiate with the others. So I think to build that commitment that you talk about is, first of all, committing to a common project. What is good for me, but it's also good for the other person. I think pairs or whatever it is, the relationship, they grow apart because at a certain point in life, an individual project becomes more important than the common project. So there's no enough room, there's no enough space for them to compromise or to negotiate. Well, I'll give you an example. Imagine, especially for women, that's a very hard thing to do because society expects them to grow in a way that they have to compromise with their personal life, their professional life, to share a common life with their partners, to become a mother, to become a wife, or whatever it is. So they have to abdicate, to compromise with their lives, to go and follow the partner. That's not a common project. That's an individual one. You're compromising to attend someone else's project.
Mhm.
So I think to build a strong commitment and a very honest one, you have to build them in a way that you respect both individualities, both identities, but at the same time you build something together. If you want to have, for example, a child, that's a common project. That's not going to be an individual one. If one wants to be a mother or a father and the other one doesn't want, how can that work? Look, it was very funny because my wife, she's got only one relationship before me, and it was a long one, from
Mhm.
14 to 21, I think it was. And right after that, I think 6 months or a year, I don't know, don't remember exactly. We get to know each other. I had other relationships before, but for her was the first one. And she moved from Argentina to Brazil. So we met in Brazil. And she, at that point, she had a life that was only related to a pair relationship. All their friends, they had together. So when they split up, she never had any other relationships in her life in Brazil because she moved recently to Brazil. So she never got her friends from Argentina in Brazil. So it was hard for her to build a new network of friends out of nothing because they were not there. They were in a different country. So when we got to know each other, I had my prior life with lots of different experiences, lots of travelings and other things in my life, and also relationships. When we got to know each other, I was in a point that I wanted a strong commitment. And she was thinking like, well, this is just my second relationship. I don't want to build a strong commitment now in my life. And I remember we had something like, we went out for a year and a half, and I said to her, I surprised her with the idea of, I don't know, evolving with the commitment and proposing to her, look, let's progress to another stage and commit in a different way. After a year and a half, she was, I think she was not ready to that, but she reacted in a good way. And I said to her, look, this is what I want. If it's not what you want, that's fine. I will understand. But that's really important for me. I think it's us. I think it's the right relationship. Let's try to progress. So we planned for a year more, and then we got married. So it was 2 years and a half since we knew each other to get married. But it was a different time. I was 24. I'm 50 now. So it's a different generation. It's a different time. It was in the 90s. I think it makes a huge difference now. People tend to get married later in life, and I understand that. So it was different, but it worked for us, pushing and saying, look, this is the right time. Let's do it. We knew that it was the right person for us, for both of us. So we made the move to live together and to start a new relationship. And I think the other thing that it's kind of a generational thing is many people, they tend to get out of relationship up until the 80s, 90s, because they wanted to have an active sexual life that they didn't have before unless they were married. That's very different nowadays. You don't have to get married to have a sexual active life. So you're allowed to stay home with your parents or live by yourself without getting married and having a sexual active life. So that's very different. It looks like very simple or very naive, but if you lived in that time, you would understand very clearly, well, in order for me to be active in a relationship like that in the 80s or 90s, I had to get married. That was not the reason of why I get married, but for many people it was. So that's part of the generation that it's not common nowadays. And I think you made me remind of something that about the commitment. That is, when you get to a conclusion, to a decision, let's get married, is one thing. But when you move in together, for example, just to experiment, and you're going to live part of your life together, and let's try to see if it works for us, it's a different commitment. I'm not criticizing it. What I'm saying is a different commitment. You know that, well, let's see if it works out is different than saying, let's get married and see if it works out. That's why we have more than half of the population in the world who get married and get divorced. More than a half. Because people tend to face a strong relationship as a marriage, for example, as an experiment. I'm not saying it has to be for life. I'm not saying it. For many cultures, it is for life. What I believe is you stay in a relationship, whatever it is, the relationship, as long as it's a healthy relationship. If you are yourself, if you're happy and the other person is happy as well. If you don't, that's not for life. you should move and should let yourself be in a different relationship. What I'm saying is facing marriage as an experiment, like seeing, let's see if it works out. And then eventually you have a child. Well, you put someone else in the equation, and that's not an experiment. It's going to be for life. You're going to be a parent for life. That's not going to change. So I think another element of the commitment, as you said, is not facing as an experiment. Live it with 100% of your energy, 100% of your commitment from day one, up until the point that you feel like, well, that's not for me anymore. Okay, just walk out. But that was not an experiment.
Yeah.
That's different.
So stay committed, but at the same time, stay open-minded towards what can happen to your marriage.